Hey, I am Betsy. Tom asked me to come in here and just share a little bit about my story and where I've been with my time with First Form. I'm 38 years old. I'm married, been married for 17 years. My husband is Matthew. We have two kids. Sarah Ellen is 11 and Holt is 8. I'm also a full-time teacher. I teach special ed in grades 3 through 5, and that involves co-teaching as well as some reading intervention classes that I teach. So that's the main stuff there. Going on to my story, I grew up pretty athletic-ish, I guess. I played softball. Struggled with my weight a little bit as a kid, I guess, but not tremendously. By the time I was a teenager, I was normal, as you would say. And then I got married young. I got married at 21. And of course, that plus getting a new job as a teacher and starting a career, you put a little bit of weight on and you just stop focusing on yourself as much with all the stress and things. So started gaining a little bit here and there, and then we had kids. With my second child, my son, I definitely had some postpartum going on. Going from one kid to two was difficult, as I'm sure many of you know. And then we had our COVID years, and as far as that goes with my family, my husband is immune compromised, or considered that, because he has psoriatic arthritis and he has to take medication that suppresses his immune system. So we had a different perspective on COVID during that time because of that, and it was just hard. It was hard years. Now not a problem at all, but back then it was just hard years. A lot of fear, anxiety, and that kind of stuff go along with that because we had young kids, and I love my husband. So then 2021 came. I was just still in a very rough place, physically and mentally. I was just so drained by that point with the postpartum and the COVID and all the things. I caught myself having a lot of negative self-talk. It was intense. I did not believe in myself. I didn't believe I deserved anything. It was just a lot. I'm sure you can relate to that in some way. I think people picked up on that, and I think they treated me differently because of it too. It impacted my relationships with them, and I think in some ways people thought they could control me because I was so down on myself, just generally unhappy with the way things were in my life at that point. It was just a rough time. So I knew I needed to fix it. I did try on my own for a few weeks. Obviously didn't work so well. Then I connected with First Form, and I connected with my first coach, Bart. That's when things really started to change, and I started to learn all of this stuff, which I think part of it I knew previously, because we know, right? We know what we should be doing, but I didn't really know the how. I didn't know exactly what step do I take next, and that's what Barb really helped me on. I learned how to count macros, which was hard for me. If it was easy for you, that wasn't my story. It was hard. It took weeks for me to figure that out. I started working out. I started on my bedroom floor. I would do little EMOMs on my bedroom floor for 15 minutes, 3 times a week, not a lot. And I would go for a walk here and there. It was not a lot, compared to what I do now. It's just not, you can start small, is basically what I'm saying. And I had some friends who were running, so I was like, I guess I could try that. I wasn't a runner at all at that point, not whatsoever, hated it. Would not run any distance, a mile, half mile, quarter of a mile, not happening. But they were running, so I was like, I'll sign up for a 5K, I guess, and we'll see how that goes. And then I met my goal weight probably about 3 months in, around the time I did my first 5K. And I mean, it was my goal weight because it put me barely into the normal weight range category as far as like BMI and stuff. So not where I'm at right now, but definitely, better than I was for sure. But at that point, I started having more difficulty because people could see me. And I think the weight I was like hiding behind in a lot of ways. And suddenly people were paying attention and were noticing, and it completely freaks me out. And that's when my coach said, I think you should start reading personal development books. And I was like, I don't know about that. But I did eventually pick one up. And I read Relentless. And if you haven't read it, you should. Tim Grover is amazing and such a good book. And when I picked it up and read it for the first time, I was like, this is not me. I don't know why you told me to read this book, because it's not me at all. And then I got about halfway through it and I was like, you know what? I think that is me. I think I am like that. So if you haven't read it, you should read it. It's so good. But I realized like I really did have this fire inside of me that I didn't really realize was there, that I really wanted to like tap into, So that book really led me to my first 75 Hard. After reading that book, I was like, you know what? I need something big. I need, I've lost my weight supposedly. At that point, I thought I did. And I needed some big goal to like work towards. So I thought 75 Hard was insane. So that's what I did. I was like, might as well do the most insane thing ever. But I just like knew at my core after reading those books and starting really thinking and working on my mindset, like I knew I could do it. I just had never pushed myself to that point before. And I really wanted to prove to myself, not really to others so much, but to myself, that I could do it. Completing 75 Hard really solidified those habits that I had been working on. It helps me form and shape my identity, because now at that point I could solidly say, I am fit, I am a runner, I work out, I'm track macros. And it wasn't, oh, I'm trying this or I'm attempting. It's, I do this on a daily basis. This is who I am. And if you don't like it, sorry. That's, and I had the confidence to say that at that point, which was truly a miracle considering to where I came from. And so several months later, I ran my first 10 miler. Like I kept just increasing the pace, or not the pace because I'm very slow, but increasing the mileage, and began to notice when I was running, like my hearing would go out afterwards. So I'd come back in it would come back like 12 to 24 hours or so after I ran, but it was definitely going out. And I didn't know what was going on. And I asked a few people and they're like, never heard of that. So I kind of ignored it, which you probably shouldn't do. If your hearing goes out, you need to go to the doctor. But I didn't realize that at that point. So that kept happening for months when I was running. And then 3 weeks prior to my first half marathon, I went for a run. I think it was 10 miles at that point. That was like my peak training run for that training session. And it didn't come back. Like it diminished and it did not come back. And it was at the severe level, like no speech. Like I could not understand speech at all. I got all the shots in my ears. I got steroid shots. I had a huge dose of prednisone, 60 milligrams a day for 14 days. It was insane. And they didn't really know why. I felt like running had something to do with it, but they didn't know why. I didn't know why. But they felt like, you can go ahead if you want to, but it's kind of at your own risk. So I definitely slowed down my running because I was just scared. I did complete that half marathon 3 weeks later, but after that, I definitely slowed it down. But I found like I really missed it because that had become who I was. And then I finally got in with a doctor, and she said it was an interesting case, but she could determine a cause. But she's never heard of running causing hearing loss. So it was like, well, I guess you can keep running. She gave me a supplement that was known to protect hearing and told me as long as I was taking it that I could just keep going. So that's what I did. When she said I could protect my hearing with the supplement, I said, okay. And I took it, and I signed up for a marathon that day. And training sucked. I trained in the summer, and it was absolutely horrendously brutal. Like, it was insane. It tested my mental strength like I had never, ever before. If you've ever done that, you know, right? 6 weeks before my race, though, I had my first vertigo episode. It was at work, and it was extremely embarrassing. They tried to call the ambulance. I was like, please don't call the ambulance. I think it's my ear. Like, I'm not having a heart attack. Anyway, in the weeks following that, it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. It progressed to like hours-long episodes of like violent vertigo where I was vomiting for like hours on end. It was not fun. I said during that time, like so many times, like, I'm quitting, like, I'm done. And I just never could like bring myself to that point. I had a conversation with Barb in that like 6-week period before my race, and she said, you know, no one is gonna blame you. Like, if you don't do this, no one's gonna even bat an eye at you. This is really hard. You have a legitimate medical excuse. You have every valid reason to quit, like, that anybody could come up with. But you have to really assess how you're gonna feel on that day if you decide to quit and if you decide to keep going. Like, either side, you've got to assess, how am I gonna feel about that on race day? And I really thought about that. And I just made the decision, you know, to keep going. Because what she was really asking me was not whether I was going to quit or not, but it really was my identity. Like, she was asking you, are you the kind of person that is going to keep going when hard things come up? Or are you the kind of person that's going to back down and quit? And I learned to do like hard things. Like, I knew I was going to do it. So I chose to break down the wall. I chose to do the hard thing, even though I had every reason to quit. So I completed the race. Major vertigo afterwards. 2 major attacks within like 24 hours. And then every 10 to 14 days after that for like the next 5 months, I was having vertigo constantly, until I was able to see a specialist, and she finally diagnosed me with Meniere's disease, which I didn't want to hear. I thought they could like do some kind of surgery and fix my ear and I'd be good. But Meniere's disease is not curable. It's lifelong. I'm gonna deal with it forever. And it was not the news I wanted to hear. Let's see. But she said, you know, I can give you this preventative medicine that might help you. It doesn't help everybody, but we can try it. Lucky for me, it did help. It wasn't perfect. It's still not perfect, but I still struggle, but I can still manage it, you know? But the thing, Meniere's attacks your hearing too. And my hearing just continued to deteriorate. And I went from severe level to borderline profound, but the really big thing about my hearing was it got distorted really bad. So normally you could put a hearing aid on that kind of loss, which I had for a while, but I couldn't understand because it distorted the speech so bad. So I ended up having cochlear implant surgery in February of this year, which after surgery I was good for about 5 days, and then the vertigo hit, and I had an absolutely terrible 4-day stretch of vertigo that lasted 4 solid days, 24 hours around the clock. It was insane. Eventually I gave up and was like, we're going to the ER, because I couldn't do anything, you know. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. it, and that I went to the ER, they finally got me some fluids and stuff like that. So I was able to like bring it back down to some degree. But when I woke up the next morning after that, I couldn't walk. And so the vertigo, that severe 4-day episode, took my vestibular system just out. Like I could not walk. I walked with a cane for 2 weeks because I could not maintain any kind of balance whatsoever. I lost a lot of progress in the gym. Nutrition at that point stayed like somewhat okay, but then I got into my head and started making some poor choices and just kind of spiraled out of that. And then nutrition and not exercising makes my nerves worse. So I was just in a bad spot. This spring, it was rough. Yeah, I don't know how Tom dealt with me, but because I was turning in assessments every week, but it's not really doing the program. But deep down, I knew, like, you gotta fix this. I knew how to fix it, and I knew I've got to fix it. I talked to Tom, and actually he suggested I completely step back for a few weeks, and I was like, what? You sure? And I did. Nutrition, workouts, didn't focus on any of it. I did a little bit here and there, because I like to work out, but just really, I ate some trashy stuff. But then I came out of that little period ready to fight back. Like I was like fired up after that. So that's when I decided to start to do 75 hard. And I knew it would fix my habits and it would fix my mindset. And so I just jumped in on that. And in May 17th, I think was the date I started. I'm on day 61 today. Meniere's is much worse, not much worse, much better these last few weeks. The dizziness has gone completely down. I'm almost symptom free right now, which is amazing. My mindset's better. I'm excited to continue the journey and see what's next. And like, it's not such a burden right now because I've worked through pushing myself to that level to get past that wall in a sense. So I just wanted to say, like, if you're at a point where you're struggling, and I do have a few suggestions for you. I don't, I'm not like perfect, and I'm not like the one that has all the answers, but I would say a few things if you're at that point where you're struggling is work on your mindset, open a book, get some personal development in, listen to a podcast, something. You gotta work on your mindset, because if those negative thoughts are continually in your mind, it's just, this isn't gonna work. You gotta get rid of those for sure. Number one. And the second thing is refuse to allow negative self-talk in your head, which is part of the mindset thing, but also negative self-talk around you. Like one of the things me and my husband did was we completely turned off the news. We don't watch any news whatsoever in our house. Because it's just so negative. We don't need that around us. Negative people at work, stay away from them. Or tell them you don't want to talk about the negativity. You just got to find those positive people in your life and really like cling to them. Let them in your circle. Keep the negative people outside. And the last thing is, I would say get some accountability. Tom would be great, obviously, because he's a coach. That's why I really love having a coach, because it's somebody I can, keep me accountable to. And really for me, I don't know about everybody else, but like he didn't even have to say a whole lot. Like just knowing that I'm tracking my food and I'm doing my workouts and logging everything and knowing that he could see it is enough for me. I don't know if it's enough for you, but that's enough accountability for me. As long as somebody can look at it and be like, I see, like, it's just the fear that they're gonna say like, I see you didn't get your stuff done this week, that's enough for me, that it keeps me on track. And the last thing I would say is wherever you're at, and one thing I've lived by these last 4 years I've been doing this is just don't give up today. You can give up tomorrow. If you want to, give up tomorrow, fine, but not today. And really, it's always today, right? So just don't give up. That's all I've got for you. I will put my results from day one until now in the comments and stuff. But and if you have any questions, let me know. I'm sorry this is so long. I usually don't talk this much. I'm actually a really quiet person. Sorry. All right. Well, thanks for letting me get to know y'all. Bye.